I think that's a great aspect and a good way to look at it, and I absolutely agree with you on that. Shifting a little bit, can you give us an overview of what the next big game contest is?
The next big game contest is something that we're doing with Comedy Central, VH1, a number of the Viacom networks, where we're actually going out to our guests and saying, listen, you guys come up to us all the time and say, hey, we got a great idea for a game, or wouldn't it be good if this game had that component, or something like that. Well, time to put your money where your mouth is, or in terms of Dave & Buster's. We're going to go out and we're going to say, listen, if you've got an idea for a game, no matter how big or how small, how developed or how not it is, we want to hear from you, because we're going to go and take that to the manufacturers and we're going to try to get it built at least as a mobile app. But if we can, if it's good enough, if it's strong enough, then we'll actually see if we can get this thing put into each of our locations so that you and everybody else can play it. And the really cool thing about it is that whoever comes up with the best idea is going to get free gameplay for life, which is a pretty compelling prize to win. So there's a really simple way for people to go onto the website and to and to show people how in a few words they what their idea is, and I think it's going to be really compelling. I think getting people involved in sort of that game design process and being able to express their ideas and their opinions is something that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I think that allowing that community feedback to come out is something that's really useful, because after all, it's the customer, so you ideally want to see what they have to say about the possible games and mobile apps that they would like to see. In terms of that partnership with VH1, MTV, and Comedy Central, where exactly do they come in? What does this partnership add for Dave & Buster's?
Well, those guys, I mean, they clearly know, all kinds of popular culture. They know what we're doing, and they know, they know about games. They know about all sorts of different types of, film and television, that sort of thing. And I think they also know what gamers like, the kinds of things that they've produced, everything from like the Daily Show with Jon Stewart and the Colbert Report, all the way through to the kinds of programming that you see today on VH1 and MTV. Shows that they understand what the audience is interested in, and so what they're doing is really to provide both awareness for this contest and make sure that people know about it, but also really partner with us to try to figure out which ideas are the ones that are worth pursuing. Because obviously, we've already had thousands of submissions, but there needs to be a way to kind of go through them and apply the an initial filter and kind of narrow down what we're looking at so that so we can move through all those submissions as efficiently as possible.
So in terms of the submission process for this contest, when somebody submits it, is it voted by the peers to kind of make like a top 10 or whatever, or is it gone through by administration and kind of determine which ones will make a final product?
Yeah, no, it's not going to be sort of peer reviewed or sort of done in like a Kickstarter fashion. We're doing it really by applying the skills and experience of people who have a lot of professional time put into doing this sort of thing. So between the folks at Viacom and the folks here at Dave & Buster's, we think that we have a pretty good shot at finding something pretty cool.
Excellent, yeah. And that allows to have that kind of industry expertise come in and fine tune and pick the thing that's going to fit you ultimately, because not only on the consumer side is it going to be their game, but you also need to look at it in terms of your side. Is this game going to fit in our multiple different demographics of customers going to enjoy it? So I can see,
exactly.
And peer review doesn't always work. There can be issues with, people not being honest and all that. But anyway,
exactly.
moving on to another note, the Xbox One took a lot of flack from the gaming community for its 24-hour online checks and allowing for publishers to dictate whether or not the game could be resold. So Microsoft later, as we know, changed their policies regarding these online checks and used games. But in your aspect as a co-creator of the original Xbox, would you say they're right to change their mind?
Of course. I mean, you always reserve the right to change your mind. I think that if you go out with an idea, and people don't respond the way that you expect them to, then it would be foolish not to change. Why kind of, just being obstinate would you want to go out with an idea that people are upset about without changing it? If you're not open to the possibility that you're making a wrong choice, then you're not going to try things that are really the way that you push things forward. I mean, what if that had been the right way forward? What if people had responded really, really well? I think that, I think it was right for people to express their concern or their upset over the direction that Microsoft had announced, if that was something that they disagreed with. And I think that, if they agree with the decision to change, on Microsoft's part, then I think that they should applaud that decision.
It's definitely something I would agree with you on, and it's good that they were open and responsive. It took, many thousands of people, but they were responsive and adapted to the situation and, listened to the consumer.
Sure. I mean, would it have been a good thing for them to get it right the first time out, to avoid the controversy? Sure. But, again, I'm sure that they felt very strongly about the direction that they wanted to go in. And, given that, probably, that why would they have taken what they clearly thought was a cool idea, and swept it under the carpet until they found out that people, didn't respond the way they hoped they would.
Absolutely. On the note of Xbox One, what would you say has gone right so far for the Xbox One?
Well, I think that there are a few things that they're doing well. Clearly, the capabilities of the hardware are really going to enable, very, very compelling game experiences. And I think that the games that they showed at E3, really impressive. And I think that, if you set aside the potential bitter feelings that you may have had about some of the policies that they initially announced, if you just looked at those games, by themselves, it'd be really hard not to get excited about that. And so I think that that's really good. I think that ultimately, although they may not have expressed it in the best way, the idea that there's a wide variety of entertainment that people want to have, and that there are interesting ways of providing that to people, so that, when you're sitting in front of your television, if you want to play games, then, there's a huge number of games, and the best games, available to you. But also, if you feel like, okay, I'm done with that and I just want to veg a little bit and I want to watch some videos, or I want to, get access to something else, then that's a possibility as well. I mean, that's an idea that is, is compelling. And I think that, obviously it all comes down to execution, but you can't fault them for the vision. Sure.
Flipping the board a bit, would you say, if anything, what has gone wrong so far for the Xbox One?
Well, I think clearly being out of touch with what the hot buttons were for their audience is the theme that kind of binds together a lot of the reaction that happened after the reveal event. The fact that people, that it was not explained in a way where people could, feel, positively about some of the changes that they were planning to make, is unfortunate, because it put things off on a sour note. Now, it's going to be a long, long, long road until the next Xbox and the next PlayStation several years down the road from now. So I think that it's really short-sighted to say, okay, well, Xbox is done before it's even shipped, and PlayStation is, there's only going to be, PlayStation 2 years from now. That's clearly untrue. So I think that, there's still an opportunity, to build positive feelings, but you never want to, be doing it by starting from digging yourself out of the hole. So, starting off and the first message about this new platform isn't really about the games. Clearly, that's an unusual choice for Microsoft to make. A lot of the concern about the way that they expressed the handling of the physical media is disappointing, because I think that could have been done in a more skillful fashion, where people would have understood what the vision was and potentially even liked it more. And I think that also the thoughts about privacy and the notion of having an always-on camera is challenging as well. I just bought a new large flat screen TV that has a built-in camera from Samsung. And I didn't think twice about privacy issues. So I think that's it's interesting that that's something that occurred quickly to folks about Kinect, and it's something that Microsoft hadn't anticipated.
Absolutely, that's another good aspect of that. The camera, some very mixed feedback on that. Some people didn't mind. Some people, that was their main opposition. But I guess that comes down to personal choice. But in a way, I would agree with you that I wouldn't mind it in my personal opinion, but to many people, that always-on camera is possibly a point decision between choosing a different console or the Xbox One. So it's something I think that we'll have to come to face with, because that's how devices are starting to get. It's just always on, not necessarily camera, but different devices and different features. But that's something that they responded to, but we'll have to see how that adapts in the future.
I think it comes down to a question of trust. Do you trust that that when the manufacturer says, "Listen, when it's switched off, it's switched off," and when it's switched on, we're not looking at anything that's coming to us. It's being handled, it's being processed, on the machine, and it's not being fed back to us. There's nobody sitting in a room full of monitors, watching people sitting around and picking their nose watching television. Do you trust that? And I think that is at the core of a lot of the outcry around that aspect of Xbox One, is that there are some people who don't trust when Microsoft says that that's the case. And I think that that's something that they're going to have to deal with.
Absolutely. Final question. The freemium free-to-play model has definitely exploded in the past few years due in part to mobile gaming. But would you say that the freemium model fills a similar void that arcade games do in terms of monetization?
I wouldn't say that it does in terms of monetization. If anything, arcades are one of the most stable and reliable sources of income in the interactive field, because we know that if you want to play a game, then there's a cost associated with playing it, and that's the bargain that's made. You don't have to shell out $60 to play a game. You pay a tiny fraction of that to play it a certain number of times, but it's only a game that you're going to play for so many times. I think that what free-to-play offers is an opportunity to get people attracted, and to find out what kind of games that they're interested in without a huge investment. And so you're able to go and say, all right, I'm going to play this game for free, and if I want to jump ahead, if I want to have more rapid progress, or I want to customize my character or my vehicle, or I want to do something kind of out of the ordinary, there's an enhanced version of that experience that I can have that I'm willing to pay for. And if I don't want to have that, if I don't want to pay for it, I understand I don't get the enhanced experience. And if I don't want the enhanced experience, I don't have to pay for it. I think ultimately that's what freemium is about. Is kind of lowering the barrier to purchasing and playing a game.
I think that's a great way to look at it, and I can see where you're coming from in that term of, you're paying $60 to get the premium AAA title versus going to your Dave & Buster's or another arcade area, and you're paying that smaller portion, but you're still playing the game. It's just for a shorter period of time. But then there's two different aspects, because they'd have different features, different pros, different cons to each side. But I think that's absolutely a good way to look at it. That wraps up our time. So thank you, Kevin, very much for your time. I appreciate it. And
my pleasure.
Looking forward to see what develops from Dave & Buster's in the future of arcade gaming.
I am too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. Bye.